have to fear is
In war,
fear itself.
there is no substitute for victory.
Let us never negotiate out of fear.
We stand undivided, forever united, fighting hand in hand for the liberty we burn, for glory and honor, for our sons and daughters, ever mindful of the lessons we've learned. Let the torch of freedom burn.
You find your way to the intersection of faith and politics. This is WallBuilders Live. Thanks for joining us today. Visit online at wallbuilders.com and also at wallbuilderslive.com. When we say the intersection of faith and politics, we mean the culture. We mean letting your faith influence everything that you do. And for Christians and people of faith to not be afraid to enter those different arenas that impact the culture. David, you usually break it down. I'm Rick Green, by the way, here with David Barton. David, you usually break it down by, I guess, about 5 arenas, really. Cover those for us real quick, where they're all influential in the culture, but none of them should be off limits to people of faith.
Yeah, you have education, and you have government, you have the pulpit, you have entertainment and media, and the 5th one is business. And so those, and you can subdivide that. You can divide judiciary out, and you can divide media out of entertainment. But there are those 5 areas. Some people call them the 7 mountains now, the 7 areas. But those are the areas that you got to be involved in. And one of the areas that we have seen the church really be reticent to become involved with is directly involved in politics. We look back in the American Revolution, so many of your political leaders were literally preachers. There were so many of the state constitutions and after the American Revolution were written by preachers. So many preachers in the first Congress, so many involved in creating the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, etc. And we just haven't had that today, but we're starting to see that. And this last election, not only do we have pastors elected to Congress, such as Jody Hice out of Georgia, but we had pastors running in states you wouldn't normally pick. I mean, if a pastor was going to run, maybe Alabama or Tennessee. No, we had pastors like Rob McCoy who ran in the state of California, a very hostile state for people of biblical faith. And yet Pastor Rob McCoy stood up and ran there, and quite a remarkable race and quite a remarkable story that goes with his race.
And just a great example of how to make an impact in that arena with the right attitude and with the right, duty is ours, results are God's kind of attitude. And we had him on, I guess it was a little bit before the race. Well, it was quite a bit before the race, maybe back during the Republican primary, actually. And we just really enjoyed visiting with him and getting that perspective. And now it's after the race, so let's get him back and find out what happened. Stay with us, folks. We'll be back in a moment here on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. Today, we heard that our founding fathers were largely atheists, agnostics, or deists. The writings of founding father Richard Henry Lee strongly refute that assertion. Richard Henry Lee was a signer of the Declaration of Independence, and he is specifically the man who made the motion in Congress that America separate from Great Britain. Following his death, his papers and correspondence, including numerous original handwritten letters from other prominent founding fathers, were passed on to his grandson. After having studied those letters, this was how the grandson described our founding fathers. He declared, "The wise and great men of those days were not ashamed publicly to confess the name of our blessed Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. In behalf of the people, as their representatives and rulers, they acknowledged the sublime doctrine of His mediation."
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8-REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back to the intersection of faith and politics. WallBuilders Live. Thanks for staying with us today. Our guest is Senior Pastor of Calvary Chapel, Thousand Oaks, Pastor Rob McCoy. Good to have you back, Pastor Rob.
Good to be here, Rick. Thank you.
Hey, we were super excited about your race and just the excitement of having pastors involved in the political realm and helping to influence the culture through that arena. And we wanted to get an after-action report from you about your campaign and what's next.
Well, the sad part was we didn't win. The good news was we were outspent 6-1 in the primary by the Republican Party, and we beat them substantially. by 7 points, and then we went into the general election and faced the Democrat Party. And the numbers I've been given, it was about $6.3 million that the Democratic Party spent against us, and we lost by 5 points. And there was about 110,000 votes cast, and we lost by about 5 points. Had about 51,000 votes for us. It was a close race.
Wow.
But the $6.3 million that they spent combined didn't equal the total that the Democrats spent in all other assembly races combined, I was told. So
they wanted to make sure that you didn't end up in that legislature.
Yeah. Well, they a formidable candidate. Her name was Jackie Irwin. She was the mayor of the city, and she'd been a council member for a number of years, had good name recognition. We put up a good fight, a lot of provisional ballots. They had spent $750,000 to do registration in the Oxnard area, which is plus 21 Democrat. And the race really, was affected by that. The 5,000 votes could have been the 7,000 new registers that they got for the $750,000 they spent. But we made a lot of inroads in relation to the race itself. But there is a really highlighted aspect to the campaign. If I could take a minute to share with you.
No, please do. And before you go there, though, let me just that's an incredible amount of money to be spent in one legislative race. I mean, even by Texas standards, which normally everything. No, I mean, unbelievable amount. And as you said, I mean, it's as much as what they spent on all the other races. So it tells you a lot about what they want to keep out, and that is someone that has the backbone you have and is not beholden to anybody, and is just going to go in and vote for truth and do the right thing. So I'm actually thrilled to hear that they came against you that hard, because that if you're not taking flack, you're not over the target. So I think you were definitely called to run that race, and I'm sure it affected other races around the state when they spend that much in one race. I'm sure that it cost them a lot of seats around the state as well. So that's all very, very good stuff, man. And I'm just thrilled that you ran in the first place, that you came that close. And think about all the people that got involved in your race and all the people that got involved maybe for the first time. I mean, that's a big plus.
Well, we had one man who had a stroke, and half of his body was paralyzed. He couldn't speak, and fully recovered. And then he made over 20,000 phone calls for us between the primary and the general election. I had another guy who walked 15,000 homes, a retired police officer.
Wow.
These are folks that had never been involved in a campaign before. We mobilized over 600 volunteers. And the exciting thing was the Democrats in California had a supermajority in both the Assembly and the Senate. And our goal was to break the supermajority. And as a result of the money that they spent in my campaign, the Democrats ended up losing races they didn't expect to lose. And so the supermajority was broken in the Assembly and the Senate. Scott Wilk, who's an assemblyman, and a number of others, Travis Allen, Kristen Olson, they all attributed to our campaign that we're the unsung heroes of the Republican Party because of the focus they put on our race, and the Democrats ended up losing other key races, and the supermajority was broken. So,
man, I didn't even realize that's where you were going with that. That's exactly what I was thinking would happen if they spent that much money. But so that is what happened. I mean, they cost themselves that majority by coming after you so hard, that supermajority. Yeah,
well, and another highlight, too, is when we entered into this, it was real simple. We had put together what we called a Bean Patch Coalition. And it came out of 2 Samuel 23:11 and 12, just a study of David's mighty men. Shammah was he had fought the Philistines and assembled himself in a field full of lentils. And you see a jar of lentils; they look like beans. And he fought alone and ended up defending the bean field from the Philistines. So I just kind of said bean patch politics. We draw a line around Ventura County. This is our bean patch. We assemble, try to win local races, and we entered in with the sole purpose of winning a school board seat. We wanted to see if the model worked. We put forward a guy named John Anderson who had run 2 times before, and even though I lost, John Anderson ended up winning, and we're 1 seat short of breaking the majority in the entire history of the Conejo Unified School District. Of the about 60 school board members that have been elected, only 3 were non-endorsed by the California Teachers Association, the largest union in California, government union. And John ended up winning, and he wasn't endorsed by the CTA. And as you know, in California politics, $300 million, which is the lion's share of money that's been spent in politics, has been paid for by two public unions, the CTA and the SEIU, and that's gone to one party, the Democratic Party. And so when you face a Goliath like that, it's a pretty intense fight, and John ended up winning, and so we were thrilled by that. And that was something
big,
that we took a lot of consolation from.
No, that's big, and as you know, we talk so much about education here and the importance of what's happening. Not just if you're homeschooling, private schooling, but if everybody's affected by what's happening in that public school, and so having good people on those school boards, that's ground zero for turning the culture around and turning the nation around and getting good citizens educated through that system. So that's huge, huge. In California, Pastor Rob McCoy is our guest from Thousand Oaks, California. Stay with us right here on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. At the time of the American Revolution, numerous other nations also had revolutions, yet 200 years later, America is the only of those nations still under its original form of government. Is this just good luck? Not according to founding father Benjamin Rush. He declared, "I do not believe that the Constitution was the offspring of inspiration, but I am as perfectly satisfied that it is as much the work of a divine providence as any of the miracles recorded in the Old and New Testament." George Washington agreed. In fact, he declared, "I should be pained to believe that the United States have forgotten that divine interposition which was so often manifested during our Revolution, or that they fail to consider the omnipotence of that God who is alone able to protect them. Our founders acknowledged that our national success had come from God."
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8-REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
We're back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. Pastor Rob McCoy of Calvary Chapel, Thousand Oaks, is with us today from California. He just ran for the state legislature there, and came so close to winning, but it sucked a ton of money into that race from the left, and it cost them seats all over the state and had a profound impact, and also just got a lot of folks involved. And Pastor Rob, you were just saying as we went to the break that you had somebody that ran for the school board, and in California won on this school board, and you're close to breaking the back of the union monopoly there.
Yeah, well, we wanted to take the emphasis off of Sacramento dictating what we do in our district and allow the people to have that voice. And that was what was so special about having a candidate run who wasn't endorsed by the public unions, which dominate California politics. The other highlight for me was when I entered into the race, the Republican Party, because of the open primary that we have now set up in California, the Republican Party wasn't behind me in the beginning. And they spent close to $1 million to keep me out. And when we ended up beating their candidate, a lot of folks wanted to abandon the seat. But to the credit of the Republican Party, they didn't abandon the seat. Jim Brulte came behind us. Charles Munger Jr., who had spent a lot of money against me, ended up, helping the Republican Party to support me. And, they ended up having to defend things that a number of Tea Party folks had written that had been a part of the campaign early on. And so, a lot of these things they came after me for, the Republican Party defended. And I liked it because you look at Thomas Paine, who wrote The American Crisis when George Washington was at Valley Forge and the revolution was at a very critical point, motivated by the writings of Thomas Paine. And then John Hancock, he underwrote the revolution, never wore the uniform, but spent the money to make it happen. So, I kind of look at it as Thomas Paine would be the Tea Party, John Hancock would be the guys like Charles Munger Jr. and Jim Brulte, and then me and the troops, the 600 volunteers, would be like the George Washington and the soldiers at Valley Forge, just trying to make it happen. And we all work together. If we don't stand together, we fall apart.
Oh, what a great role model. That's the kind of thing that's got to happen across the country, Rob. It's part of the reason we wanted to have you on is it's a great example of what needs to happen. And just to hear your clarity and to hear from a modern-day John Peter Gabriel Muhlenberg, a pastor that understands the dual citizenship and willing to serve here I think I asked you this back when we had you on months ago, but what kind of response do you get from the congregation and your fellow pastors as you enter that arena?
Well, we got a lot of support from, believe it or not, a majority of pastors in the Oxnard area in some very impoverished communities. One in particular, the pastor of the largest black church in Ventura County, Bishop Broderick Huggins of St. Paul's Church, lifelong Democrat. He endorsed me, put his picture and his name on a mailer that we sent out, along with Jesse Alvarez, a Hispanic pastor from Oxnard. And yet up on the hill in Thousand Oaks, it was kind of silent from some of the mega churches, and I don't know if they're run by an elder board or what it is, but a little bit hesitant to get engaged in the process, and it'll take time to do that. But we were really encouraged by the pastors in the Oxnard region to step forward, because they're the ones dealing with the poverty and bad government and how it affects their congregation.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, it hits them the hardest when you have bad government. So what about, even in your own congregation, what did you have to deal with folks saying, hey, we don't want a pastor that's in that arena, or were most people supportive? I guess probably a little bit of both. But what was your reaction?
Well, everyone told me the congregation would shrink and giving would go down, and the opposite happened. People were really motivated by it. It unified the congregation. We came under a lot of attack, and in the 14 years I've been the pastor of the church, come April, I don't think the church has ever been stronger and more unified. It was really a stellar moment in the life of this fellowship. We were grateful for it and just so moved by the efforts of all the folks. And in addition, we had the Mormon community helping us. We had the Jewish community helping us. We had the Adventist community helping us. The Catholic community was helping us. There's a direct attack on religious liberty, and one person in particular listens to your show and actually quoted in a number of their blogs is a political writer for the Ventura County Star, and I'm sure he's going to listen to this broadcast. His name's Tim Hurt. And, he used your broadcast to try to cast aspersions and attack in some capacity. And it's the idea that obviously you're making some sort of inroad that people would listen to the WallBuilders broadcast and quote aspects of it in their news articles. So it tells me that we're making some strides in the right direction.
Amen. Well, it's a huge encouragement. Would you encourage other pastors to do the same thing?
Absolutely. We talk about a God who's transformational, who can have an effect to change the world and the culture. And people said to me, a lot of pastors would say, you can't serve both God and mammon. And my response to them was, I'm not serving two gods. I'm planning on serving one God in two places. And you tell me that I can't serve mammon, but the reason why you won't engage is because you're afraid to lose your tax-exempt status. That tells me you're serving mammon. We have a responsibility to engage the culture, and we've been given an opportunity through a representative form of government. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we, through civic discipleship, teach our congregants how to involve themselves in a form of government that could have a direct effect on the things that govern our people, and have principles that people can count on and see a transformation in their culture.
Amen. No doubt about it. And it sure seems like, I know it's anecdotal, but when I talk to you, when I talk to some of these other folks that even ran for Congress and just it's happening all over the country. It just seems like there's a resurgence of this Black Robe Regiment. That there's a lot of other folks out there like you that want to do what you've just done. So I'm hoping it's an encouragement to them to step out in faith, if that's what God's calling them to. We're not saying every pastor ought to do this, but clearly God has given you a voice that's effective, and that for you to come that close in that district and to have that much of an impact on the statewide scene of what's happening with politics in California. God called you to that arena. And I don't think that's a one-time thing. I think there's other pastors out there just like that, and I hope he calls you right back to that field, honestly. But that's between you and him.
Well, we're praying about it. I'm excited. I'm not discouraged in the least bit. We just finished a trip to Poland and London with Governor Mike Huckabee. 110 pastors went, and we were at Auschwitz and Birkenau at the death camps, and we came to realize 32 SS guards killed 900,000 Jews. 32 SS guards killed 900,000 Jews. And you look in the book of Daniel, 4 Jews, Meshach, Shadrach, Abednego, or if you use their Jewish names, you have Daniel, Azariah, Hananiah, and Mishael. 4 Jews brought down the Babylonian Empire. 32 SS guards killed 900,000 Jews. You're either committed or you're compromised. And we stood there, 110 pastors, realizing that if we don't speak up, we're going to watch those rail cars just annihilate our culture. And we're going to be held captive by a minority. And we have a responsibility to speak up. And then when we were in London and at the gravesite of Winston Churchill, here's a man who stood in defense of Western civilization. And we've got to stand for something. And who better than pastors are equipped to declare that there are absolutes and that we can stand for righteousness and long to see our nation affected by laws that would bless people as opposed to situational ethics and power in government. Instead, speak truth to power. So they were moved, and so was I, and I've been forever changed.
Pastor Rob McCoy, Calvary Chapel, Thousand Oaks. God bless you, brother. Thanks for being such a great example. Thanks for answering the call, for being in the fight, staying on the front lines, and for taking time to come share with us. Let's get you back again soon.
Thanks, Rick. Bless you, buddy.
Back in a moment with David Barton. Have you ever wanted to learn more about the United States Constitution but just felt like, man, the classes are boring, or it's just that old language from 200 years ago, or I don't know where to start? People want to know, but it gets frustrating because you don't know where to look for truth about the Constitution either. Well, we've got a special program for you available now called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green, and it's actually a teaching done on the Constitution at Independence Hall in the very room where the Constitution was framed. We take you both to Philadelphia, the cradle of liberty in Independence Hall, and to the WallBuilders Library, where David Barton brings the history to life to teach the original intent of our founding fathers. We call it the Quick Start Guide to the Constitution because in just a few hours through these videos, you will learn the Citizen's Guide to America's Constitution. You'll learn what you need to do to help save our constitutional republic. It's fun, it's entertaining, and it's going to inspire you to do your part to preserve freedom for future generations. It's called Constitution Alive with David Barton and Rick Green. You can find out more information on our website now at wallbuilders.com.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
We're back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. And what a great example, David. That's encouraging, man. Pastor Rob's, I'd like to multiply that by about 1,000, which is actually doable.
Yeah, it is doable. If more people do that, and by the way, there were several things he said that were really significant. One is that he got good support from other pastors in the district. I would not have suspected it would be that high. I'm glad to hear it's that high, especially in California. A lot of times when you start getting beat up in the culture, you retreat and you hide. And in California, where Christians have been beat up for a while, rather than hiding, they're saying, no, way to go, bro, we're behind you. So now I'm not surprised large churches were hesitant to get engaged. I mean, that's kind of there because they get large because they don't want to offend anybody, and so what they say and what they do is pretty much not going to challenge most folks. But I also love the fact that his congregation did not shrink and giving did not go down, but it was just the opposite. You know, those are really, really good signs. But to put in perspective what this pastor did, and he's a pastor of what we would call a middle-sized church. It's not a mega church. It's not a tiny church. It's a healthy church. They spent $6.3 million against him for a state representative or a state assembly race. I looked it up while he was talking, and the average successful U.S. congressional race, if you ran for Congress and you were successful, the average you spent was $1.6 million. They spent the equivalent of 4 successful congressional races against him. Now, they must have been scared to death of him. And I talked to somebody in the state who said, the House Assembly leader there in California, or what we'd call the Speaker of the House, the Assembly leader, is open lesbian, and she did not want an evangelical pastor in the Assembly. So, I mean, $6.3 million. Now, fortunately, it did cost them in other races, and so they don't have a supermajority, which means it's no longer veto-proof. In other words, the supermajority, if their governor, the Democrat governor, liberal guy, Jerry Brown, signed something, the legislature would uphold it, or if it was vetoed and they wanted it, then they could override it, veto-proof. But now they don't have that, and that's because of Rob sticking his neck out there.
That's what you call losing or winning the battle, losing the war.
That's
for
right.
them.
That's right.
They might have won that battle, but they've really hurt themselves on the big picture.
And Rob also was a great example because he's now been heralded across the nation, and other pastors say, way to go, bro. I hadn't thought about that. I'm going to start thinking about doing that. So watch his tribe grow. Expect that tribe to grow. And I loved his answer to his pastor critics. Even though the majority supported him, they said, well, you can't serve God and mammon. He said, I'm not. I'm serving God in two places. It's not
That's
a choice
right.
between two gods. He said, you guys are the ones serving two gods because you're letting the government affect what you can say from the pulpit.
Yeah, that was really
good.
good.
What a brilliant response! What a brilliant response! So you can imagine why the assembly leader did not want Rob in the assembly with a mind like that. That would not have been pleasant for him to bring up things and cut to the chase on so many issues. But good news to have a pastor like Rob McCoy running, and don't expect this to be the last of what Rob's going to do.
And really, David, isn't that the Founding Fathers model? I mean, that's the Black Robe Regiment, right? I mean, we want those pastors to duplicate what our pastors did in the founding era.
And what was so cool is not only did he duplicate that, he didn't pout about it. And I think a lot of people might have pouted that, I can't believe they spent $6.3 million against me. I can't believe they lied about me. And for him, it's no big deal. That's just part of the battle. But I'm engaged. I'm not depressed. I'm ready to go again. And that is the right attitude, and that is the attitude that will turn a nation, and that's a great attitude to see from the pulpit, and that is what we had in the original Black Robe Regiment.
As Ronald Reagan said, happy warriors out to take back a country and a world of freedom. That's what we need more of. Thanks to Pastor Rob for his time today. Thank you for listening to WallBuilders Live.
We stand undivided.